Welcome to the BrightWord Books Podcast. BrightWord is a leading platform for diverse storytelling, where voices from all backgrounds can share their unique narratives and connect with readers from around the world. Follow our regular podcast updates, where we strive to foster a literary community that celebrates creativity, inclusivity, and the transformative power of literature. Welcome to the BrightWord Books Podcast. I'm your host, John Lobb, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Marvin Wilkerson, author of Soul Fusion Healing, Integrating Mind, Body, and Soul. In the book, Marvin guides us through a transformational journey using spiritual astrology, hypnotherapy for self-discovery, and energy healing techniques. The book merges ancient metaphysical wisdom with modern healing modalities to help readers identify and clear karmic patterns, understand subconscious programming, activate soul integration practices, restore balance through chakra and energy work, and navigate life with cosmic clarity. Whether you're feeling fragmented, spiritually stuck, or simply seeking consciousness and transformation, Marvin's book will empower you to become whole again. Marvin, welcome to the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Well, it's my happiness to be here.
Well, we sure appreciate it. And maybe to start us off, what inspired you to write Soul Fusion Healing?
Well, it started many years ago. Soul Fusion Healing is actually the culmination of about 50 years of my work. I started off very, very early as when I was in a senior in high school. I came home and my mother was doing a lot of soul searching, and the Christian background was highly in question for her. And of course, she started talking to me about it, and I started defending the Bible and all of that. And she throws a book at me. It's called Think on These Things by Judah Krishnamurti. And it took me about 2 months to read that book because he's a very complex individual. But what it did is it taught me the more metaphysics and more understanding that was out in the world than what I had been accustomed to with just being indoctrinated through church. And so that really kicked it off to start discovering astrology and psychics. And of course, I lived in Virginia Beach. So, I mean, you can't live in Virginia Beach and not know where the Edgar Cayce Foundation is, with 14,000 readings and 8,000 of them for healing and medical. That was a big, that was the big jump for me to get into that and start reading and exploring reincarnation and all those types of things that at that time, 50 years ago, that was still kind of woo-woo.
Not
I mean, you know,
perhaps as these days. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been what a beautiful journey that I have been on to discover so much. And, you know, I always joke when I was in high school, I only read one book called White Fang. And I started that halfway through because we had to write a book report. But when I started learning things that I wanted to learn about, I started reading 3-4 books a week. And I've been an avid reader and an avid searcher for truth and universal concepts for over 50 years.
Wow. Wow. Very impressive. And the title, Soul Fusion Healing, where does this concept of fusion come in? Can you help us better understand what fusion is?
Well, yes. I mean, you know, our soul is the guiding principle in our life. Now, you know, most people get hung up with the idea that the conscious mind, which is nothing but ego, this is your ego personality, and it's all been conditioned. Well, the soul is the guiding light that we use in a journey in life. So, and the soul will bring about concepts in our intuitive side or even in our ego side to create the situations that we are going to learn from. And I get a lot of people in here that's opening up spiritually and all of that, and I have to tell them, look, the soul does not care about your everyday life. It only cares about you learning and growing and coming into self-realization of the truth. And if it needs to send you into a negative situation, trust me, it will, because that's what you need to learn, is what the soul guides you into. So it's not just a hunky-dory, beautiful life that you don't have hardships and conflicts to overcome. It's a life that my favorite thing, and to help people understand, I have them come to me and say, well, I meditate 4 and 5 hours a day. Why do all these bad things happen to me? I'm trying to be spiritual. And my favorite thing is, quit trying to be spiritual, because you are spiritual. How about just trying to be human? And that's where you learn.
Gotcha. I love it. I love it. What a concept. And you're blending really in the book ancient concepts with very modern concepts. Can you talk about how they complement each other?
Well, there are so much knowledge in enlightened being. I start out in the book, in the first chapter, wanting to help create an understanding of how great the mind is, because in the final analysis, all is mind. We make up everything we experience. It's made up in the analysis through our brain. So when you look at the Hermetic principles, this is a 30,000-year-old doctrine. And one of my favorite people was oh Lordy, I forgot his name already. The mythologist in Chicago, the professor that taught mythology, that we live through the Greek and Roman theologies. And so when you start looking backwards and realize the information that is brought forward, it helps, it elucidates the truth. And we're all looking for universal truth, is what we're doing. I call it universal law, universal truth. So, I used to say the Upanishads or the Vedas were the oldest recorded. But of course, we have records that go all the way back 30,000 years, which is the Kabbalion. So when you start out realizing that all is mind, that's the very first place you can start attributing our life between the conscious, the unconscious, which is a far greater capacity than our thinking ego mind.
Interesting. You talk about the concept of astrology, and I know many people consider astrology, wow, I look in the newspaper and it tells me it's a good month to meet new people. But you talk though in the book about spiritual astrology. Can you help our viewers understand what is the astrology that you're talking about, and how does that differ from what most people think about the term astrology?
Well, it's humanistic astrology. It's about helping people to understand themselves and achieve a self-awareness. a sense of personal growth and self-actualization. That was the second book that I read that um, really hit me hard, was Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda, and understanding the whole concept of self-realization. You know, in our society and culture, when we first start out, I mean, we're starting out with the capitalistic notion and idea that we want to make money and achieve material success and so on and so forth. I mean, it's a kind of a foreign idea that there's a spiritual side to you, and that's the much more powerful side. And so astrology is just simply energy. And I mean, the easiest thing back in the old days that I used to say to people, it's energy, and all energy affects life on Earth. And if you have trouble with that, go look at the new moon. In the new moon, there's more surgeries. In the full moon, excuse me, there's more bleeding. And so hospital people understand this. The full moon, the tides respond to the full moon. So there's so much of a spiritual side, a humanistic side to astrology versus the predictive side. And I was always drawn to the spiritual side. When you understand your spiritual path in life, then you can get a sense of the why in life of your life. And of course, we all know, I said everything is mind. Well, everything is also energy. And so I read energy. Prediction is the very last thing that I think is even important. Doing a reading, I would rather tell you what you came into this life to learn. Why are you struggling with your past patterns of perspective, perceptions, and conditioning that are in error? I mean, and you want to start out from the place that Jesus Christ said, "Ye are all gods." Well, if you're a god, well, then you're a co-creator. And that's pretty daggone clear, all the way down from Jesus Christ to all knowledgeable people of truth. And so astrology is extremely important in helping people get in alignment with their spiritual self. And that's the way I use and read astrology.
Another concept you talk about is karmic patterns and subconscious programming. Can you help us understand what exactly is that?
Well, karmic patterns are perspectives and perceptions that you've created about yourself and life in error. And the ego makes a lot of errors because it's conditioned. And who is it conditioned by? I like the quote of Ken Keyes that says, before you're the age of 21, you've been told 60,000 times who you are, who they are, what the world is, and your place in it. Well, that's conditioning. So the language, the verbiage that you use in self-talk, the verbiage that you use to analyze and evaluate your experiences in life is all conditioned language. It's all comes from somebody else until you start looking at yourself and say, wait a minute, this doesn't line up with what makes me feel good about it. And so we spend, and I tell people, clients, that when you reach the age of 20, you spend the next 50 years, 60 years, however long you're going to live, of reevaluating your life based upon what you were taught. And so that's where conditioning and programming comes in. And of course, when we look at karmic circumstances, obviously that means that you're coming in from a multitude of lifetimes where you have made perceptions and perspectives that were in error about life. So obviously you have to face those experiences again from a different perspective, from a different level of understanding, so that you can make a correction. And that is what spirituality is all about, correcting misperceptions.
Gotcha. About the concept of soul integration. What exactly does that look like in daily life?
Well, basically, the soul is your instincts and your intuition. The soul is your somatic experiences in your body. Your ego mind is going to cause bodily dysfunctions, bodily out of alignment. You can ease through life or you can dis-ease through life. And so when we talk about soul integration, the ego is in this front brain, is in the conscious mind. It's about 5% of your reality. So what the ego says really creates nothing. It's just an organizational unit for our experiences that we use our physical senses to experience life. The soul comes from the intuition and feelings. Feelings are by far more powerful than thinking, because feelings now, if it feels good, I mean, you know, I got to think about when I grew up back in the 60s, and we always had the motto, if it feels good, do it. So, but I typically like to have clients feel a positive and feel a negative. A negative response will have an effect on the body. Any negative will have an effect, and the body loses strength. When you look at a positive feeling, the body becomes strong. The body feels better. It feels more in alignment. So what you're always trying to do is follow your intuitive voice by far more than the ego voice, which will lie. I mean, it wants to make you right at all costs. It will not allow you to be wrong, so it'll make stuff up. Wow. And so this is another case for coming into the intuitive voice, the internal voice that will guide you along universal principles of truths and laws.
Interesting. What role does hypnotherapy play in the process?
Well, that's a wonderful question. When you think of the conscious mind creates 5% of your reality, your subconscious mind creates 95% of your reality, and it doesn't use language. Now think about that for a second. The subconscious mind is also 1,000,000 times more powerful than the conscious mind. Now, which brain would you like to use?
Good point.
And so all truth, all the whole universe, everything lies in the subconscious mind. Our ego voice blocks it. Our belief systems block it. And so hypnosis is a place where we can get you into a total relaxed state. When you totally relax, you move into that deeper awareness of the subconscious mind and bypass the ego mind. Now you're open to suggestibility. Now there is no negative that occurs in the subconscious mind. And so now you can be guided to a different perspective, to a different perception than you have from the awakened ego state. So subconscious is how we help people to heal, help people come to terms with some of the conflicts or illnesses in life. Everything is, remember what I said in the beginning, all is mind. So if all is mind, why can't the mind heal me? And Norman Cousins and all of those earlier pioneers of learning how to use the mind to heal, Norman Shealy, these are people that learned how to use the mind to heal themselves of when they've been told, I think it was Shealy that was told within 24 hours he'd be dead. Well, the doctors were shocked when they walked back in and he was feeling better than ever before. And what he used was laughter.
The best
laughter.
Medicine. Laughter.
That is the best medicine there is because you see, we're getting out of the negativity that's produced in the conscious mind. And we're getting into our visualization, which is the power of all human beings. It's visualization. You can't even talk without visualizing what you're saying. It creates a vision. So when you get into the subconscious mind, you can use visualization. When you get into quantum healing, well, now you're going to such a high place of detachment from the ego identity that you are now in touch with cosmic and universal consciousness. Well, that's perfection. The body cannot stay imbalanced when you're in perfection. Now, Deepak Chopra's taught about that in his books. Joe Dispenza is the latest one that's talking about in his books. So it's very important to understand that that's the integration that we're all looking for. Body, mind, and soul. It's all one. And when you listen to the body will tell you what you're thinking. And when you listen to your feelings are going to guide you in your intuitive side and listen to your internal voice, which is right about 80% of the time compared to your conscious thinking mind being right about 25%, sometimes 30%, but very little.
Interesting. And you talk of healing. Obviously, this relates to energy healing and the concept of chakra, all related. Would that be accurate?
We typically, people are becoming more aware of the 7 chakras. The chakras are energy centers that are part of the meridians that are strewn throughout the body. Energy, you got to understand, is how the Chinese have been healing for over 5,000 years. We've been using chemicals for what? A couple hundred at the most? And so energy, if you got a root chakra, a sacral chakra, and so on, those energy centers will tell us kind of where conflict is in our life. And so even when you get up into the higher chakras, which is much more of a spiritual and collective consciousness chakras that work, that help bring us into a higher sense of awareness and a higher sense of that spiritual consciousness.
Gotcha. And does that relate to cosmic clarity?
Yes. I mean, basically, cosmic clarity, this is where you have to understand we live in a third dimensional reality. It's duality. We learn through objectivity. I'm forever teaching people about relationships and what their real job is. all relations are to objectify what's going on inside of you. You see? So if we understand this duality, then we have to start understanding linear time. And linear time is duality, because if we learn through objectivity and seeing things as how they affect us and how we look at things, that's how we learn, is on linear time. As a soul, you already know everything there is to know, because you're connected to the universal consciousness or God or whatever you want to label it. There is no disconnect. You are in your highest element at any moment in time. And so the errors in your beliefs, your perspective, your perceptions is what we have to experience in this dimension of reality, in third dimension. When we get into fourth dimension, we start listening to the intuition. I mean, Einstein said, which is one of my perfect examples, is that when you examine the lives of most influential people who've ever walked among us, you discover the thread that winds through them all. They have been aligned first with their spiritual nature, and only then with their physical selves. That's big.
That's very big, huge.
Yes. And so we're moving into a time right now in the world and in the country, especially, we need to move into the spiritual self, because the spiritual self does not care about whatever is going on in the planet. I liked what Dr. David Hawkins said. The reason there are so much angles to reality, problems with realities, confrontations, and so forth, is because it gives the opportunity to every soul to experience what they personally need to experience on their journey to make corrections to understand self-realization.
Fascinating.
So when you see that you can pick and choose your reality and forge your own reality, now you can be in charge of joy and happiness and love.
Wow. Food for thought, indeed. Food for thought. Marvin, our time is running short. I'm sorry to say, but before I let you go, is there just maybe one message, one thing that you would hope a reader would take from the book?
I put in the tools. It's what I teach with clients. If I used to have a very hard time early on in my career of being called a healer. It just didn't feel right to me. I didn't feel like I was really doing anything until I realized that healing is helping someone find their tools that they need to fix themselves. I think it was Science of Mind that talked about to lift the burden from one that's supposed to carry it is the greater sin, because ye are all God's. If you've made a mess of your life, you have the ability and the wherewithal to get it straight. And so healing to me is giving you tools to help you find the deeper essence of who you truly, really are. And so I allow myself to be called a healer from that perspective. And of course, I've been helping people many, many years to overcome some pretty graphic issues and conflicts.
Fascinating. Marvin, thank you so much for visiting with us today. It's been a truly insightful discussion. I know the book is available on Amazon and everywhere fine books are sold.
Yes. It's available around the world through Ingram Sparks and several other major book people. So yes, it's all available.
Excellent.
And
Well, I highly encourage our viewers to check it out. The name of the book again is Soul Fusion Healing, Integrating Mind, Body, and Soul. And we've been speaking today with Marvin Wilkerson. Marvin, thank you so much for being with us. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
well, it's been my pleasure to have the discussion.
And we'll see you all on the next episode of the BrightWord Books Podcast. You've been listening to the BrightWord Books Podcast, home of the literary community that celebrates creativity, inclusivity, and the transformative power of literature. Don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss future episodes. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.